Gansu in northwest China, cut in two by the mighty Yellow River. One side of the river, a 1,000-kilometer-long corridor of deserts, speckled with green oases, stretching to the Great Wall and beyond. The other side, a lusher, greener land. Taking to the skies in central Gansu, we'll see the spectacular Loess Plateau, as it's never been seen before, embarking on a journey through time as well as space, seeing the past and present of one of the world's greatest agricultural civilizations unfold before our eyes. The color of the Yellow River changing as it journeys towards the sea. Seen from the sky, arid Gansu resembles a vast lake. Far below, the land looks like waves frozen in time. And that's not so far from the truth. Tens of millions of years ago, this place was a wide stretch of water, slowly filling up with wind-borne dust and sand over millions of years. 8 million years ago, it vanished. The Loess Plateau was born. Following in the wake of the tourists who flock here in their droves, it's hard to believe that this strange terrestrial moonscape was created by water. The soft sediments left behind as the lake dried up, washed away by rain and river, until, with nothing to keep the sand and rocks in place, the cliffs too began to crumble away, leaving nothing behind but the very hardest rock, the stunning glutinite pillars that the tourists have come to see. Here, the highest stone pillar stands at more than 200 meters, as high as a 70-story building. The Yellow River Stone Forest, a masterpiece of Mother Nature, sculpted by water and time. What weird and wonderful shapes will the elements sculpt it into in the future? Only time will tell. Longwan Village nestles in the arms of the Yellow River. For centuries, maybe even longer, there were only two ways to get here, both highly dangerous. By tiptoeing along footpaths on the top of sheer cliffs, or by taking a white-knuckle ride on a goatskin raft. Amazingly, this goatskin was removed from the carcass in one piece. Get enough of them, and you have a goatskin raft. Nowadays, goatskin rafts are little more than a tourist attraction. But for 2,000 years, these goatskin rafts, known as leather boats in ancient times, were absolutely vital for communities up and down the Yellow River. The Northwest Plateau, home to wide expanses of good Loess soil. The Dongju Loess tableland, more than 900 square kilometers. With its flat layer of well-drained, rich loess, a key location in the birth and development of Chinese agriculture. August to October, rainy season on the Dongju Loess tableland. Made of soft and yielding loess, it doesn't take long for the rain to carve out deep gullies. With its steep slopes, for the farmers here, life is a constant battle to preserve water and prevent soil erosion. There are many ways to preserve water and soil. Terracing is the method used by the people of Zhuanglong. Since 1964, the people here transformed hundreds of thousands of acres of hillside into terraces, preserving water and soil and creating a productive as well as beautiful landscape. In the process, removing enough soil to build a wall 1 meter tall and 1 meter wide, stretching 6.5 times round the entire planet. But we have to go higher still to get a real sense of the beauty of this glorious work of art. A landscape sculpted by the hands of millions, a wonderful terrestrial patchwork. Rising in Qinghai, the Taohua River runs right across Gansu's Loess Plateau. Carving its way through Gansu's soft hills, it's rich with sediment by the time it makes its rendezvous with another great river that has come a long way to be here. Emerging at the foot of the Longhui Mountain, the contrast between the pristine waters of the so-called Yellow River and the muddy waters of the River Tao couldn't be starker. In fact, in a sense, it's only here, after this infusion of sediment, that the Yellow River begins. After meeting at the Liujiasha Reservoir, the river will take on even more sediment as it flows east, getting muddier and muddier, becoming a yellow river in reality, as well as in name. Lanzhou, the first major city the Yellow River encounters en route to the sea. A metropolis nestling in its deep, narrow valley, sprawling along both banks. Over the 2,000 years since it was first established in the Western Han Dynasty, Lanzhou has grown and grown. Divided by a mighty river, keeping the two sides of the city linked up has always been an important issue for the people here. Zhongshan Bridge was the first iron bridge over the Yellow River. Built by German engineers in 1906, it was a mega project of its day. Short of the steel needed to build a bridge of this size and quality, everything had to be imported, taking up to 10 months to reach Lanzhou. After 100 years in service, Zhongshan Bridge now enjoys a well-earned semi-retirement. Still open to pedestrians, the strenuous job of getting heavy traffic across the river has been taken over by more than 20 newer bridges that now span the Yellow River. In 2014, Lanzhou West Railway Station, the official opening of Lanzhou's first high-speed rail link. The Lanzhou-Xinjiang high-speed rail link, one of the toughest railway routes in the world. Passing through one of the most extreme environments on Earth, trains running on this line need to be ready for anything. Temperatures higher than 40 degrees Celsius in summer and 40 degrees below freezing in winter, not to mention hurricane force wind. Beyond the lowest plateau lies another vast expanse, the Gansu grassland, following in the footsteps of the herdsmen and nomads who for countless years have wandered these pastures. It's time for us to follow the Yellow River on its eastward crawl across the grasslands, before taking a detour to a paradise for migratory birds, and finishing off this leg of our journey at a grand carnival. These meadows are home to yaks. 90% of the world's yaks live in China. In June and July every year, just as the grasses on the plateau are beginning to turn green, the herdsmen drive their yaks to this, their summer pasture. Here, they will stay until winter. Yaks live in herds. Often hundreds of yaks are managed by just one herdsman. Yaks are easily scared and are fearsome creatures when roused. For that reason, the herdsmen maintain a safe distance when they are out grazing. Having lived the nomadic life for thousands of years, these people know all there is to know about living in harmony with nature on these highland pastures. The Yellow River knows how generous the Machu wetland is. If the Yellow River is an artery, the hundreds of brooks and streams that crisscross this marshland are its veins and capillaries. Even more water is underground, stored in a layer of peat, dozens of meters thick, just below the surface. Like a sponge full of water, it's almost as if the purpose of the Machu wetland is to store vast reserves of water for the Yellow River. These marshes certainly invigorate the river. Before the river reaches Machu, it only has 20% of its total water volume. When it leaves these wetlands, it has up to 65%. As the Yellow River approaches the borders of Gansu, Qinghai, and Sichuan provinces, it goes through a huge bend, giving birth to another vast area of grassland, home to a breed of horse found nowhere else, the He horse. Superbly adapted for life up here on the plateau. Strong, capable of sustaining speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour. This is a horse that combines speed and stamina. Even today, Huachu horses still keep herdsmen company. In the dialect of the Northwestern people, Ga means little. This lake is known as Gahai Lake. In summer, it makes an amazing transformation, a haven for birds. The black-necked crane, another creature unique to the plateau. They might look gentle now, but newborn cranes can be quite a handful. And no wonder, you need a bit of fight in you to survive in this hostile environment. With food scarce and fights frequent, 40% of crane chicks fail to make it through the first 3 months. These two birds seem to be well matched in strength. That might explain why they're trying to get along with each other. This village, surrounded by mountains, is called Jagana, meaning stone casket in the Tibetan language. About a century ago, a man named Joseph Rock came here. It was a place he fell in love with almost immediately, writing in his diary that he'd never seen such splendid scenery. Rock was an American explorer. Yading in Daocheng County became more widely known to the world because of his depiction of it. After 27 years traveling in China, to Rock, Jagana was like the Garden of Eden. No wonder, time somehow seems different up here. Slower, more human. Jagana, it seems, continues to live life at its own pace, just as it did when Rock came here all those years ago. The distant strains of a joyful melody tell us that we're coming to the end of this leg of the journey. People rehearsing for the big Goa Zhuang Dance Festival. This Goa Zhuang dance competition will last for 3 days, attracting nearly 1,000 participants. To progress, they need to have the right look as well as the right moves. Participants are judged on their costumes as well as their dancing. Most important of all, it's a chance for the whole Tibetan community to get together, to sing and dance, and enjoy their colorful culture. Now it's time to get to know southern Gansu, a land of forests, waterfalls, seas of clouds, towering mountains, a place that rivals even South China for lush green beauty. To the north, a hidden, mysterious world of ancient grottos, a land of dense forests where hermits sought solitude. Longnan, on the border with Sichuan. When Chinese people say that someone covets Sichuan, even though they've conquered Longnan, they mean someone's eyes are bigger than their belly. After all, what more could you want than this? One thing's for sure, it doesn't fit with the stereotype of Gansu as an arid place. From afar, this mountain looks a bit like a coxcomb, hence its name, Jifeng Mountain. With its breathtaking scenery, it's a place that has inspired many myths and legends. It's also the ideal place to contemplate the wonders of creation, which is why holy men came here some 1,000 years ago and began building this temple. Where better than a secluded mountaintop to live a religious life? This mountain is said to resemble a stack of wheat straw, hence its name, Maiji Mountain. And there's much more to this mountain than meets the eye. Burrowed into sheer cliffs, up to 140 meters above ground, are more than 200 grottos, containing more than 10,000 sculptures and nearly 1,000 square meters of murals. And building these grottos was no mean feat. Difficult enough with even today's technology. The mind boggles at the sheer effort that went into carving them out of the rock face all those years ago. It's said that the giant sculpture of Buddha on the eastern cliff was originally inside a grotto. Destroyed during a Tang Dynasty earthquake, the statue we see today is a renovated version. Carved into the cliffs of Maiji Mountain, more than 1,600 years of history. The Chinese character Shen, which means immortal, is a combination of the Chinese characters for person and mountain. The ancient Chinese believed that because mountaintops were the closest to the heavens, they had a special spiritual significance. These, the Kongtong Mountains, are said to be one of the birthplaces of Taoism. These mountaintop Taoist temples were first built in the Tang Dynasty. The Kongtong sect, a fictional martial arts sect mentioned in novels and movies, has imbued these mountains with an even more mysterious reputation. But there's a grain of truth in even the most outlandish tale. Martial arts really are practiced in the Kongtong Mountains. As well as Taoist temples, the Kongtong Mountains also play host to many Buddhist temples. Just getting here is a test of spirit and character. Struggling up these steep mountain roads is enough to test anyone's faith. On to the next leg of our aerial survey of this fascinating province. After crossing the Wushao Mountains, we begin a journey of discovery into art and nature. We try to feel the high morale of the soldiers who were going on an expedition into China's far west. We discover how Buddhism arrived in China and became part of its national culture. Further west, we'll be amazed by the spectacular murals and sculptures on the mountains. Finally, we cross the Chilean Mountains and marvel at the power of melting snow. As we go westward along the Chilean Mountains, to the north of the mountains, a passageway forms. It's the Heshi Corridor, the link between China's far west and the Yellow River. Wushao Mountains is the starting point of the Heshi Corridor. It also marks the boundary between China's Central Plains area and the far west. Windy, freezing cold throughout the year, it's not easy to cross these mountains. And just as the mountains are a barrier to people, they also stop warm, moist rain-bearing air currents blowing in from the south. On the other side of these mountains lies China's vast western desert. A legend tells of the origins of the Gansu dance. According to a folk story, in ancient times an army was besieged. In desperation, they hid their weapons in drums, dressed as drummers, and so managed to break the siege. Maybe there's some truth in that. The constantly changing formations of the drummers do resemble the battle drill of an ancient army. Continuing west along the Heshi Corridor, we come to Ma-Ti Temple, literally meaning horse hoof temple, world famous for its grottos. And the only way to reach them is via these narrow paths carved into the cliffs. Paths so steep and narrow that you have to be really determined to reach the top. The earliest sculptures in the grottos were made some 1,600 years ago. In the Ma-Ti Temple, there's a hoof print, which is said to have been left by a divine horse. Because of it, the surrounding mountains and rivers have all been named after horse hooves. There were some things that can only be seen in their full glory from the air, like these spectacular, multicolored hills. It's taken millions of years for nature to create this spectacular work of art. First, a lake full of mineral-rich sediment had to dry up. Only then could time and the elements get to work on the iron in the sediment, turning it red. Meanwhile, the other minerals were also reacting with the air and water, making their presence known in glorious color too. It's as if Mother Nature accidentally overturned an artist's palette. The result is something that human genius could never create, not even in a million years. To the south of the Heshi Corridor stand the rolling Qilian Mountains. Qilian Mountains is a huge mountain range, not just an isolated peak. The snow-capped mountains stretch for 800 kilometers from west to east, 400 kilometers across at their widest point. In a sense, they mark a crossroads to three very different landscapes. To the north and west, the boundless desert. To the south, the arid basin. To the east, the vast Loess Plateau. Compared with the surrounding areas, this mountain range is almost an oasis of moistness, or would be if it weren't frozen all year round. Topped with glaciers, these mountains are permanently capped with ice and snow. This glacier covers an area of more than 20 square kilometers and is the largest valley glacier in the Qilian Mountains. Glaciers can move, sometimes shifting several meters per day. A rapidly moving glacier often projects a narrow sheet of ice, known as a ice tongue. Glacier water flows down from the glacier tongue into the desert in the northwestern part of China. "80% of the water in the Heshi Corridor comes from the Qilian Mountains. All of these galloping horses are numbered. The numbers and letters represent different meanings. Through their numbers, people can know the family information of each and every horse. Shandan Military Stud is the largest army horse breeding base in Asia. This time-honored horse farm has been in existence for more than 2,000 years, ever since General Ho Chu-bing was stationed here during the Western Han Dynasty. People tend to think that rape flowers are unique to the beautiful southern part of China. The rape flowers in Heshi Corridor look quite dynamic and different. The oases nurtured by the Qilian Mountains provide enough land for tens of thousands of acres of rape flowers. Patches of golden rape flowers and green wheat forming a gorgeous carpet across the landscape. Jincheng is a young growing city. It's also an ideal location for a very special crop. Dry and with sufficient sunshine, this place is a paradise for vervain. Flowers and plants are enriching the character of this city and boosting its economy. Quinoa is another crop that is bringing color and prosperity to the Huaxi corridor. A close relative of spinach and beet, it's becoming ever more popular as a whole food alternative to traditional staples like rice and wheat. Native to the Andes Mountains in South America, people have been growing quinoa for about 7,000 years. But it's a newcomer to the Huaxi corridor with a history of just 10 years. But now it's time to say goodbye to the Huaxi corridor, a land that over the past few decades has been transformed from a barren wasteland into a patchwork of vibrant color. And now to the last leg of our journey, flying across the desert on a quest to find out more about the remote border areas and their glorious history. On a mission to witness a wonder of sand and water, not to mention the vast, mysterious Gobi Desert. This is Jiayun Pass, a formidable obstacle in the Huaxi corridor. It also marked the westernmost end of the Ming Dynasty Great Wall. And in those days, even if you'd got this far, there was still this fortress in the way. And without a special pass, there was no way you were getting through. This pass used to be flanked by walls, respectively starting from the south and north sides of the Jiayun Pass. They extended all the way to the mountains and valleys. This 750-meter-long Great Wall is the preserved section. Built on a 45-degree ridge, it seems to be hanging in the air, hence its name, the overhanging Great Wall. The entire defense system of the Jiayun Pass stretched for dozens of kilometers and took 168 years to build. The pass was heavily guarded back then. In the Gobi Desert, no force is greater than the wind. And what better place to harness this elemental force for the good of all by generating usable electrical power. But the wind doesn't blow every day, not even in the Gobi Desert. That's why these wind turbines have special speed increasers so they can generate power even when there's only a slight breeze. Likewise, these same devices close down the turbines when wind speeds are high enough to damage the generating equipment. On top of that, sensors also help detect wind direction. This way, whatever the weather, wherever the wind blows, the turbines are always best placed to take advantage. Moagao Grottoes, the site of an early East meets West artistic exchange. Dug into cliffs extending more than 1,600 meters are hundreds of grottos, many featuring painted sculptures and murals. The Moagao Grottoes are surrounded by desert. The constant flow of sharp, hard grains of sand borne on the wind is a serious problem. Unless something is done, there's every danger that eventually the murals here will be literally sandblasted away. A tragic loss for humankind. Let's hope that we won't be the last generation to enjoy these Buddhist masterpieces. As the sun rises, this desert in northwest China becomes a playground. It's very difficult to climb to the top of this sand dune, even with the help of a ladder. It takes more than 20 minutes to climb halfway up it. And they all have but one objective in mind: to experience the joy brought by sliding all the way back down again. In the center of the sand dunes is a clear spring. When wind enters the low-lying land surrounded by sand dunes, it will move upward. As a result, the sand is sent back up the dune. It's thanks to this unique terrain that the Crescent Spring, a wonder of sand and water, has remained sand-free for thousands of years. By far, the Crescent Spring is best viewed from top of the Mingsha sand dunes. No better place to enjoy the unique, romantic scenery of Western China. Our journey in the desert continues to the sound of camel bells. An adult camel is about 2 meters tall and weighs half a ton. An excellent athlete in the desert, it's also sensitive and timid. So much so that if a person riding on its back has an umbrella, it'll be scared by its shadow. Although most camels in the world are tame, it's still up to the rider to adapt to the natural rhythms of the camel. Even a tame camel is a very uncompromising creature. This is the site of the citadel that guarded the Yumen Pass, marking the outer limits of Han Dynasty China. It got its name because precious Hetian jade from the western regions passed through here. So Yumen Pass literally means the Pass of the Jade Gate. But though the Yumen Pass has become a byword for desolation, when it was built, it was very far from desolate. In fact, back in those days, thanks to the efforts of the soldier farmers guarding the pass, the desert bloomed. This mound is all that remains of Yong Pass. According to a line in the Chinese poem, west of the Yong Pass, you'll never see a familiar face again. Because of that, the Yong Pass has come to be regarded as a symbol of parting. In ancient times, venturing beyond this pass meant parting from friends and family, leaving behind all that was familiar. Walking along these weird-looking rocks in a desert, all you can hear is the eerie voice of the wind. Sometimes it seems as if the wind is slowly eating these rocks away. But there's another way of looking at things. Here, wind and sand are the chisels of Mother Nature herself, sculpting these yardongs into weird, wonderful shapes. Exercise your imagination, and you're bound to find familiar images among the rocks. In fact, to us, from the sky, these yardongs resemble nothing so much as a grand fleet getting ready to brave the wind and waves and sail off into the sunset.